Hey everybody, I'm Jacob Castro and welcome to another video here on Jacob's Aquarium. So I know I said I was going to bring you guys this project video 2 weeks from my previous video, but I have some free time today, so I figured I would film the video today and edit it and everything and send it off to you guys today on YouTube. So we're here at my garage here at our apartment complex, and if you can't already see, this is the location of the new pond, mega pond, that's what I'm calling it. Before we talk more about the pond, I just wanted to explain how I got to this point, So when I started jacobsaquarium.com, I started pretty much just selling aquatic plants, and I figured I could do that out of my 50-gallon aquarium and my 80-gallon aquarium. Within probably, I would say, about 6 months into the business, I noticed that, well, if I had more space, I could, for one, house more plants. I could probably grow some plants myself, which would help me cut costs, with the business. And, it would just be easier to have more space. So I went from those two aquariums to then building a pond. And as you guys know, I built that on my apartment balcony, which was absolutely insane to do something like that. It's just, I didn't really think it would work as well as it did, but surprisingly it did. And surprisingly, my balcony held up, and it didn't collapse underneath all the weight of the water because it was a 200-gallon pond. It's pretty crazy. But that was pretty much like the biggest, most advanced project I've ever done, period, in this hobby. And the pond worked very well, like I said, for I think the pond was only like 5-6 months old, until we switched to this one. But one of the biggest things I didn't like about it was that, for one, it was up in my apartment, and working up there and running the business out of the apartment was incredibly difficult because there's really not a lot of space to do things, and since what I do involves water, there's a lot of water dripping and water stuff going on, so I could potentially ruin the carpet and the apartment period. So I just figured that it was probably in my best interest for the business and the best decision really to just move everything out of the apartment and move it into an entirely separate location where I could have plenty of space, and I won't have to worry about ruining anything, and I could just do everything entirely separate, and the apartment will not be involved in the business at all. So that's what I did. It was quite a move. I mean, it was a lot to do because there was probably, I think, upwards of 300 pounds of sand in the pond to move all the way downstairs. We live on the 3rd floor, so it was very difficult to do all that. A lot of plants to move, disassembling the pond, bringing down all the filtration gear, the CO2 tank, and the Kessel lights, all the electrical. It was a pretty big move for me. But I'm glad that it's finally over. So, like I said, we're here at the garage, the location of the new pond, and I should actually tell you guys that this is also the old pond as well, because I did, as a matter of fact, use the old pond for this new pond, and then I just added on an extension to it to make it bigger. So total, the pond is 12 feet long, it is 14 inches high, and it is 3 feet wide, and that makes it almost 300 gallons. And that gives me tons and tons of space to house plants, and it's really going to make running the business easier for me, and it's also going to bring a level of quality to my products, and by products I mean mostly the plants, because in a system this large, you kind of have the freedom to separate plants so they're not shading each other. You have the freedom to grow, more demanding plants that say require, more light, more space. I'm sure you guys understand what I'm saying. It's just having more space for a business like this is the best thing that you could have above anything else, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and talk about the new pond, and I'm going to show you guys how we made it. what it's constructed out of, and give you guys a tour of course, the inside of the plants and talk about the filtration and everything like that. So let's take a more inside look at Mega Pond. All right, so first and foremost, you may be noticing that the pond is a little high off the ground, and I did that purposely because the pond that I had upstairs in my apartment was actually on the ground, and it was very, very difficult to work with it, grabbing plants on Mondays and Tuesdays when I'm packaging stuff because it was on the ground. I was just constantly, hunched over the pond for hours at a time, and it was very uncomfortable. So with this new pond, I really wanted to raise it off the ground, and that was quite a challenge because this is a very heavy thing. It's filled with a lot of water, a lot of sand. I mean, it's not the easiest thing to just raise off the ground. So I first considered buying some wood, some big chunks of wood to raise off the ground, but then I thought, well, the weight won't be distributed evenly. So the best thing that I could come up with was to use blocks, cinder blocks. And I think total, we have a little over 40 of these supporting the pond. They're stacked 3 feet high. These are the 8 by 8 by 16 cinder blocks. We got these from our local home improvement store, and they're stacked in rows. So there's one row in front, one row in the back, and so on and so forth. And they're placed about, I would say, 1.5 feet apart, and that has seemed to distribute the weight evenly and support the pond very well. Now you may be wondering, well, how the hell is the liner holding up with on top of cinder blocks? Because that the way I built the pond, we just have an outside form, like a box, but the one I built upstairs had nothing underneath it. Well, with this pond, since we were going to use the cinder blocks, we also had to put some plywood at the bottom. So we cut some plywood 3 feet wide, screwed that into the bottom, and that's what's supporting the pond, the liner, and the water and everything. And I could just, I can try to move it with my hands, and I can't even do that. It's very, very stable. There's absolutely no, it's not flimsy at all. It's very, very stable. So we shouldn't have any problems in the future if we do have an earthquake or anything, because we are in California. So that's what we're using to raise the pond off the ground. And I mean, you can tell based on my height, I'm 6'2". It just makes reaching in, doing things a lot easier than having to reach down onto the ground and do it. It's just so much nicer just having this at my level, and being able to grab plants so much easier. And also, I did notice that it's a little bit faster too when I'm packaging stuff. So, and that's definitely a benefit, because when Monday, Tuesday comes around and there's 30 orders staring me in the face, and I know I have to do things quickly, and not crouching down, and it just, the process is so much faster. So that was the most important thing with this new pond, was that I wanted it to be raised off the ground. So that's what we did, and my plan, and with the help of my dad, it worked very, very well. So for the pond liner, we used a 15-foot by 10-foot pond liner. I'll show you guys that now. And you can see we just left it draped over the edge. I was going to cut it, but I figured, you know what, it'll be perfectly fine. It'll support, or it'll protect the wood from any water dripping or anything. So I decided just to leave it like that instead of cutting it. So that's the liner, and that was very easy to install. I think that was the most easiest thing to do, was just throw the liner in. Probably second to filling it up with water. So that's what we're using for, I guess, to construct the pond itself, or for the pond. The materials we used, like I said, were the wood from the previous pond, and then we also extended it as well. So if you guys can come down here, I'll show you that we added about a 4-foot long section onto the original pond, and we secured it together with these brackets here. And I bought these brackets on none other than Amazon. I got a good deal on them. So we have brackets supporting the outside, and then there's some on the other side as well. And like I said before, it's very, very strong. It's really solid. Won't have any issues at all. So I mean, you can pretty much tell right now I'm about 95% stocked for my store, my online store. And you can tell that, you know, all the plants are just taking up this portion of the pond. We still have all this space to go. There's still all this space left. So this is just gonna, this is great. You know, this is really gonna give me a lot more space to do things, and I'm really excited. So that's pretty much what we use to build the pond. That's the liner, the blocks, you know, the plywood. That's what we're using to support it. Inside the pond for substrate, I'm using silica sand, the same sand that I used upstairs in the smaller pond. And I use silica sand because it really holds the plants down very well. You can see over here all these plants are anchored down very well. They're growing very nicely. And you know, surprisingly, it's very easy to clean. All I really have to do is just stir it around a little bit and, you know, siphon out the dirty water. So, but yeah, it holds down the plants very well, and you can see the plants like it. You know, they're very, very healthy. Some of them are actually growing out of the water. They're growing immersed, pretty much. So that's what I use for substrate, and you know, that's worked very well for me for my previous pond and this new pond as well. For the moss plants, I'm using these pond baskets to hold them because you know, as you can imagine, it would make quite a mess if I just threw the moss in here. This is Java moss, and this is willow moss over here, and you can see we don't have too much of that left, so we got to order some more. But yeah, so that's what we're using for the moss, and that's what we're using for substrate. Based on my estimation, you know, I can pretty much see the pond holding a little over 1,000 individual plants, you know, bundles, things like that. Because right now we have about 500 in here. I mean, it may not look like that, but we do. About 500 plants in here. Individual plants, bundles, stems, you know, all of that. And I could definitely see adding another, you know, 500 more. So yeah, that's substrate. Now let's go ahead and talk about what we're using to filter the pond. So as far as filtration goes, pretty much nothing has changed from what I was using on my previous pond. However, I did add a micron sock, and I did that because, you know, these micron socks, as I said in one of my previous Planet Tank update videos, they filter out every little fine particle. They're not too difficult to clean as well, you know. Pretty much all I do is I spray them off with the hose under high pressure water, and that removes all the debris out of them, and they're just, or I should say, they're good as new after that. So this is a 5 micron sock, not 100 or 200 like the socks that are typically used in the hobby, but this is a 5 micron sock, so it's pretty dense and it filters out every little fine particle. But as you can see from the clarity of the water, that is definitely the reason why I have such clear water, you know. And I really place emphasis on clear water because when you don't have clear water, you have cloudy water, it just diminishes the amount of light that enters into the pond, which that's what plants need to grow. That's pretty much the most important thing. So you definitely want to minimize that. So having crystal clear water in the pond is very important to me, and that's why I chose to use the micron sock. Now to pump water into the sock, I have a small Cobalt Aquatics MJ 1200, I think it's called, pump over there, and that's running a that's hooked up to plastic tubing, I guess you could call it, and that goes all the way from the back of the pond and into here. And I also had to build this thing right here as well to hold it up. And I mean, when this gets about halfway full of water, it's pretty heavy, so it had to be very strong, and I made a point to build this little L mount here really strong, so you can tell it's definitely not going to go anywhere, and that's important so we don't have any accidents. But that's what the sock hangs from, and that's a little bit about the micron sock there. In the back behind the micron sock, you'll see that we have some PVC showing back there. That is the outlet coming from the canister filter, and I chose to run the outlet all the way from the back of the pond, similar to the line running into the micron sock. I chose to run that line all the way towards the back of the pond as well because the inlet to the filter is over here. So you pretty much just have this constant, you know, circulation of water and that really helps filter the water completely. There's not going to be any dead areas of water, in other words, rather than if you had the if you had the outlet right here close to the inlet. So since the outlet's over there, inlet's over there, you just have a nice good circulation and filtration system of water, I guess you could say. So yeah, we have a piece of PVC running all the way to the back there. It's a 3/4 inch PVC, and then I hooked that up to the filtration with the use of these little barbed fittings or threaded barbed fittings that you can buy at any home improvement store. That was the only way I can get the plastic tubing on. So that's the outlet over there, and that's the Micron sock. You can see also, if you look over here, I'm using an Eheim, I should say, Skim 350 skimmer, and that is what is skimming the surface of the water, and that's what keeps the surface of the water crystal clear. A lot of people on Facebook and on Instagram and even on YouTube, they've always been surprised with how clear the water is in my pond. And partially that's because there's really not a lot of surface film, because the skimmer is doing a great job of removing all that. So combined with using the Micron sock and the surface skimmer, the water is just perfect. It's crystal clear. Of course, you still have to follow the same rules to keep water crystal clear in aquariums. Good maintenance. Make sure, you have to wait till your tank is cycled. Tanks usually get a little cloudy when they're in the cycling process. So I still have to follow all those rules as well. But as far as after that, maintaining the clarity, the skimmer and the Micron sock definitely helps. Now, as we move on down here, as I said, this is the inlet to the canister filter. So water comes into the canister filter in through here. And then if you guys actually want to come over, if you want to come over here, you can get a better view of everything. Water comes into the canister filter right here and goes in here, and then comes out here, goes through a Jabo 24-watt UV sterilizer down here. And you can see I made my own custom PVC plumbing or parts. I had to, because the ones that come with it aren't really that great. I think I actually talked about that in a previous video. So water goes into there, comes out through there, and then over here you can see this little black piece right here. This is the inline CO2 diffuser, and that's what diffuses the CO2 into the water, and that gets pumped out all the way back over there to the end of the pond where the outlet is. And you can see here that this is the CO2 tank as well, and we got a good flow of CO2 coming out, and I would say that's just about right for a pond of this size. When I do add more plants, and say the pond is full with like 1,000 plants, I probably will kind of up that a little bit, and I can do that by adjusting this little dial right here. And yes, this is this is a pretty small tank for such a large pond. I do actually have a 20-pound CO2 tank I'm using on my Planet tank that I have in my apartment, my 80-gallon Planet tank, so I probably will switch those out just because it makes more sense to have a larger CO2 tank on a larger pond. That way it lasts longer, and we don't have to make too many trips to the CO2 store to fill them up. Okay, so that's pretty much filtration. Inside the canister filter, I have some biological media. Pretty much it's just all biological media, and there's no mechanical filter pad at all. I chose not to do that because I have a Micron sock taking care of that, so there's no reason to restrict water flow with another mechanical filter pad in there. So it's just all biological media, and this is the Hydro Model 450 canister filter, and surprisingly it's doing a really great job pushing water through the entire system. I mean, if you think about it, it's pulling in water here, pushing water through the UV sterilizer, and then running it all the way back up over there. I mean, that's a lot to do for a canister filter that's not even rated for tanks larger than 100 gallons. But it's doing a great job. I can't, say enough about the Hydro canister filters. They're just so great, and they're so powerful. Definitely the #1 canister filter in my opinion. I would say next to well, I can't think of the brand that I was going to tell you guys about, but there's another one out there that's pretty good as well. I just can't think of the name at the moment. So yeah, that's pretty much filtration, CO2. Next, let's talk about the lighting and electrical system. So as far as lighting and electrical, I chose to use Kessel lights. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys could have figured that one out. They're my favorite LEDs. I love these lights because they're so powerful, they're so small, they're compact. They do a really great job of illuminating the pond and even regular fresh planet aquariums. So right now I have 3 Kessel lights above the pond, 2 A160s and 1 A150. And you can tell that it's not lighting the pond entirely. So I will have to buy one more to light the end of the pond, and that should properly light the pond, or illuminate, I should say, and keep the plants nice and healthy and growing strong. So we have 3 Kessel lights so far, and they're hanging off of this little, I guess you could call this little mount, or this big mount, or this big PVC construction, whatever you want to call it. This is something I made out of 1.5 inch PVC to hold up these lights. As you can see, there's there's 4 posts all together, 2 on each side holding it up, and they're actually secured to the sides of the pond. So if I shake this really hard, you can see that it's, really nothing's going to happen. So once again, if we have an earthquake, everything should be perfectly fine. So as far as lighting, that's what we're using for lighting and to hold up the lights. Now we can talk more about the electrical over here. So I have everything pretty much zip tied to the PVC, and I have everything into a timer as well, so that it goes off at a certain time. The CO2 is plugged into a timer, the 3 lights are plugged into a timer, as well as a UV sterilizer. The UV sterilizer really doesn't need to be on 24/7. There's no sense to, waste electricity like that. So in my opinion, it's okay to only have it on for a certain amount of time. So we have 2 power strips. This one is the one plugged into the timer, and there is the skimmer, the 3 lights, and the CO2 electrical plugged into right here, and the timer is plugged into a second power bar. This power bar is on all the time, so the filter is plugged into here, the UV sterilizer is plugged into here, and there is something else plugged into here that I cannot figure out. I don't know. There's so much plugged into all this. It's hard to say sometimes. Yeah, that's the electrical, and everything is zip tied to the PVC with industrial strength zip ties. Are very strong. So once again, very strong, not going anywhere, and very safe as well. So that's pretty much electrical. Everything, like I said, is set on a timer to come on and go off at a certain amount of time, or a certain time. I should also mention too, I have a temperature, or a thermometer right here, just to show the temperature in the pond. You can see that it's about 65 degrees in the pond right now, and that is perfectly fine. As far as temperature for the plants, they still grow very well in that temperature. However, in the summertime, I'm not sure how warm it's going to get in here, or how warm the water will get. So when summer rolls around and it's 100 degrees outside, inside here it's going to be pretty hot as well. And I might have to invest in a chiller for the pond to keep it at a certain temperature. But other than that, having to buy a chiller possibly someday, everything is good to go right now, and I shouldn't have to make any further modifications to the pond. So that's pretty much Mega Pond. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know there's a lot to talk about, and this video is kind of long. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to end this video by saying thank you to everybody out there for giving me the great pleasure of having you as my customer on my website, jacobsaquarium.com. And a huge thank you to everybody that subscribed to my YouTube channel, watched my videos throughout the years. I've been on YouTube for pretty much almost a year after they started, but I've had this channel up and running since 2010, so quite a while in my opinion. and it's been a wonderful 5 years. I really enjoyed my time here on YouTube and making videos for you guys, and I look forward to many, many more. All of this, everything that I've done with my business, creating my business, from the ground up wouldn't have been possible without you guys. So, a huge thank you to all you guys out there. Thank you so much. I can't thank you guys enough. So if you guys have any questions about the pond or want to know more about the pond, you can visit my website, jacobsaquarium.com, or you can post a comment below and I will respond as soon as I can. And if you're interested in buying aquatic plants, all of these plants are available on my website, jacobsaquarium.com. I will put a link in the description below so you guys can head on over there and check out all the plants. And the plants are all reasonably priced. Some are priced to the point to where they're the cheapest on the internet. And we charge $7 to ship nationwide, except for Puerto Rico, Alaska, Hawaii, and something else I forgot. But we do have some shipping restrictions for a reason. And lastly, I wanted to let you guys know that we are in the process of also switching to UPS as our official shipping carrier, just because they're more reliable. I will be making a separate video to talk to you guys more about that in the very near future. So that's it. That's Mega Pond. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Have fun with your tanks, everybody, and I will see you next time.